Let's start our first news with Du Plessis, who already seems to have his next opponent in mind following his victory over Kamaru Usman on Saturday. After putting on a dominant performance and securing another major win, Du Plessis wasted little time celebrating. In a video shared by his friend Jackson O'Doherty, the South African fighter was seen enjoying the moment in his own unique way, quickly downing a beer before moving on to an espresso martini. But the celebration wasn't the only thing that caught fans' attention. During the video, Du Plessis made it clear that he already has another big name on his radar. And this time, he's looking toward a former UFC heavyweight champion and one of the most feared knockout artists in MMA history, Francis Ngannou. With a drink in hand and the celebrations underway, Du Plessis appeared to call out Ngannou, making it clear that a potential showdown with the former heavyweight champion is something that interests him. Of course, this would be a fascinating matchup. Du Plessis has established himself as one of the most dangerous and physically aggressive fighters in the UFC, while Ngannou has built his reputation around devastating power and elite heavyweight striking. The two fighters compete in different weight classes, which makes the matchup far from straightforward. However, if the right circumstances came together, a fight between Du Plessis and Ngannou would undoubtedly generate huge attention across the MMA world. For now, there is no official fight agreement, but Du Plessis has made his intentions known. After another impressive victory, he appears to be looking for an even bigger challenge next, and Francis Ngannou is clearly a name that has caught his attention. Move on to another news, as Arman has given his honest opinion on the future of Conor, and according to him, the former UFC champion may be reaching the end of his fighting career. Arman still has a tremendous amount of respect for Conor, describing him as one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport. However, he believes the injury Conor suffered around his UFC 329 appearance could be a sign that it's time for the Irish superstar to consider walking away from competition. Arman explained that Conor may have been dealing with an injury before or during the fight, which prevented him from performing at his best. Because of that, Arman feels Conor's time as an active competitor could be coming to an end. In his view, Conor has already accomplished more than enough in MMA. He believes Conor has done a huge amount for the UFC and has played a major role in bringing millions of new fans to the sport. Arman even called Conor a GOAT, pointing out that his popularity helped change the game and significantly increase the global attention surrounding the UFC. However, Arman also suggested that if Conor does decide to continue fighting, the UFC should consider giving him easier opponents rather than immediately throwing him into another dangerous matchup. And then Arman jokingly suggested that he could be the perfect opponent. His message was simple: Conor should focus on making money, enjoying his success, and perhaps taking fights that are less risky. But at the same time, Arman believes Conor should still have the opportunity to prove that he can beat him. So, while Arman thinks Conor may be done with his competitive career, he also appears more than willing to welcome him back into the octagon for a potentially massive payday. Move on to another news, as Conor has revealed a positive timeline for his return, following the serious knee injury he suffered at UFC 329. The former UFC champion recently shared a major update about his condition, confirming that he was diagnosed with a torn ACL and a meniscus injury. Interestingly, this is not the first time Conor has suffered an injury of this nature. According to Conor, the injury is similar to the one he suffered during his first fight with Max Holloway back in 2013. However, there is one major difference this time. The injury is on the opposite leg. Despite the setback, Conor appears extremely optimistic about his recovery. He explained that when he suffered a similar injury years ago, he was able to return to competition within just 9 months, eventually stepping back into the octagon to fight Diego Brandao. Now, with advances in regenerative medicine and improvements in modern training and rehabilitation methods, Conor believes he could potentially return even faster. In his update, Conor suggested that a comeback by next summer is well within the realm of possibility. Even more encouragingly, he revealed that he is already walking without crutches and has started performing leg extension exercises without experiencing any major problems. Conor also said that he can activate his quadriceps while working against resistance, which he views as another extremely positive sign in his recovery. The Irish superstar also made it clear that he has remained highly disciplined since the fight. Rather than feeling sorry for himself, he claims to have maintained his training and recovery routine with maximum discipline. Conor even reflected on the possibility that the injury may have prevented something far worse from happening. He suggested that if he had continued on without the injury, he might have attended the post-fight after-party, and nobody knows what could have happened afterward. Because of that, Conor believes he may have been saved from something worse and expressed gratitude to God. He also thanked fans for their support and well wishes, ending his message on a positive note and reminding everyone that health is true wealth. However, while Conor remains confident about his return, Arman has a very different outlook on his fighting future. In a recent interview, Arman praised Conor's impact on the sport, but suggested that his competitive career may already be coming to an end. Move on to another news, as Dana White has once again gone off on a major sports production team, and this time, his target was the FIFA World Cup. Following the conclusion of the tournament, the UFC CEO shared a video on social media where he unleashed a brutal critique of the production team responsible for covering the event. Dana didn't hold back, calling them the worst production team in the history of sports when it comes to showcasing celebrities and major events. In his typically sarcastic style, Dana explained that he had originally expected the World Cup production team to deliver an incredible broadcast. He even joked that he had been warned by members of his own team that the World Cup producers were going to be terrible. However, Dana apparently believed his own team deserved the title of the worst production crew. Well, according to Dana, the World Cup team didn't just prove him wrong. They completely blew past his expectations. Dana sarcastically congratulated the producers, saying they had somehow managed to take things to another level and triple down on the mistakes. He jokingly suggested that the production team had basically challenged him personally, as if they were saying, "Dana White, you're not beating us. We're going to be the worst production team in the history of sports." At that point, Dana admitted defeat. He sarcastically bowed down to the World Cup producers and congratulated them for winning the competition he never wanted to be part of. But Dana wasn't finished. He also pointed out problems with the flyover during the event, adding another example to his list of production mistakes. Despite all the criticism, Dana insisted that he wasn't trying to nitpick every little detail. Instead, he was simply giving credit where he believed credit was due. According to Dana, the World Cup production team had managed to completely suck, while his own UFC production team could now proudly claim the number 2 spot. The hilarious rant quickly caught the attention of fans online, with plenty of memes appearing across social media. The video also highlighted the top 3 memes making the rounds on the internet, with the number 3 meme posted by Fun Training, the number 2 meme posted by Enough Brilliant, and the number 1 meme posted by Raw Power. Dana's comments added another memorable moment to the growing list of viral reactions surrounding the World Cup's production. Move on to another news, as Kamaru Usman continues to explain what went wrong in his loss to Duplessis, despite insisting that he is not making excuses. Following the defeat, Usman spoke with Daniel Cormier and openly questioned the judges' scorecards. The fight was scored 50-45, but Usman clearly disagreed with the decision and suggested that the contest was much closer than the scorecards indicated. The former welterweight champion later provided another explanation during the post-fight press conference. According to Usman, an early shot from Duplessis caught him directly in the eye and temporarily affected his vision. Usman explained that the injury made it difficult for him to see the incoming strikes clearly and prevented him from executing his game plan the way he had planned. He admitted that he struggled to get going against Duplessis, who had a significant size and reach advantage. Usman described his opponent as big, strong, and extremely rangy, making it difficult to find the right timing and distance. According to Usman, the eye injury caused his vision to become blurred, while the unusual trajectory of Duplessis' long-range attacks made it even harder to react quickly. Usman repeatedly emphasized that he was not trying to make excuses, saying that the result was what it was and that he simply wasn't able to perform at the level he expected from himself. He also admitted that losing was a difficult experience because he isn't used to being on this side of the result. Looking ahead, Usman remains uncertain about where his career will take him next. He hasn't ruled out a return to the welterweight division at 170 pounds, despite the difficult weight cut. Usman explained that he believes he can still make the weight and doesn't consider himself one of the biggest welterweights in the division. For now, his decision will depend on the opportunities available. If the right opportunity appears at welterweight, he could move back down. If a better opportunity exists at his current weight class, he is willing to stay there. Ultimately, Usman admitted that the most frustrating part of the night was simply failing to execute his game plan. He believes the conversation about his future could have been completely different if he had been able to perform the way he expected. For Usman, this may simply be a rare moment where he couldn't execute the way he has against so many opponents throughout his career. Move on to another news, as the highly anticipated Colby Covington versus Belal Muhammad wrestling match at RAF 12 has already been canceled. The rivalry between these two fighters reached another level at RAF 11, where tensions exploded during the post-fight press conference. The two men had to be separated after a heated verbal exchange turned into a physical confrontation. Following their victories, RAF officials announced that Covington and Muhammad would settle their differences inside the wrestling ring, with Covington's RF Cruiserweight Crossover Championship on the line. However, in a new interview with Submission Radio, Covington revealed that the matchup is no longer happening. According to Covington, he made the executive decision to walk away from the bout because he doesn't believe Muhammad can keep things professional. He pointed to their previous confrontation, accusing Muhammad of attacking him after the press conference and claiming that the situation could turn into another physical fight rather than a legitimate wrestling match. Covington argued that Muhammad would struggle to beat him in a wrestling contest and suggested that he would instead try to turn the matchup into another brawl. He also questioned Muhammad's drawing power, claiming that his rival is not a major star and doesn't generate enough attention to justify putting the championship on the line against him. Instead, Covington said RAF wants big draws and bigger names competing for the title. That could open the door for a rematch with Arman. Covington revealed that RAF will likely consider booking him against Arman again, provided Arman is interested in the rematch. Covington is clearly confident heading into the possibility of another meeting. He insists that he is the best wrestler on the planet and believes he is the greatest crossover wrestler and crossover athlete in RAF history. For now, the planned matchup with Muhammad appears to be off, while a potential rematch between Covington and Arman could be the next major wrestling attraction for RAF. Move on to another news, as Ian Gary is promising to dominate Islam from the opening bell all the way to the finish at UFC 330. Interestingly, Gary says he has zero interest in securing an early knockout. Instead, his ideal scenario is to put on 4 full rounds of complete tactical domination before finally ending the fight in the 4th round. Gary believes that approach would completely eliminate any excuses or doubts from Islam's camp after the fight. According to the Irish challenger, he wants to spend the first 4 rounds controlling the action, setting traps, and breaking down his opponent. Then, in the 4th round, Gary plans to look toward the crowd and announce that the time has come to finish the fight. He says he intends to close the distance, walk Islam directly into his traps, and take his head clean off his shoulders before claiming the welterweight championship. Gary also believes that the welterweight division would be better with him as champion. He argues that he would bring more activity and create a series of exciting matchups across the division. Meanwhile, MMA legend George St. Pierre has offered a more balanced prediction for the highly anticipated clash. GSP acknowledged that Gary is an elite striker and suggested that the longer the fight remains standing, the more dangerous the Irishman becomes. However, he believes Islam has the advantage because he is the more complete mixed martial artist. GSP specifically highlighted Islam's close-range fighting, clinch work and ability to control opponents once he gets them into his preferred positions. Gary also pointed toward the incredible depth of the welterweight division, mentioning potential matchups with Carlos Pratis, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Michael Morales, Gabriel Bonfim, Sean Brady, and other rising contenders. In Gary's view, the division is currently stronger than ever, and becoming champion would give him the opportunity to create a long list of massive fights.